Hello all, welcome to the new episode of the Product Marketing Show. I'm your host Krish, and today with me I have Tyler Lessard. Hi Tyler, how are you doing?
I am absolutely terrific. Thanks so much. It's great to be on the show.
Very good. So Tyler is VP Marketing of Vidyard. He's author of one of my favorite books, the Visual Sale. Before Vidyard, he spent more than 10 years with BlackBerry. Probably Tyler, you've brought the smartphone revolution. You're seeing the video revolution. What's the next revolution you're planning to be in?
Well, the video revolution is a really awesome one to be in right now. I'm also very excited about, I think what many of us are, the AI revolution. And so my mind is spinning in terms of the crossovers here with things like video and broader marketing.
Very good. The topic for today is you're thinking about video all wrong. Before we start, a quick shout out to our sponsors, Content Beta. Content Beta is a video and design service for B2B SaaS. You can now scale your product marketing and customer-enabled content with Content Beta. So Tyler, let's start about your background in marketing and how did you land into this video space?
It's been a very interesting, almost 10 years now. I've actually just celebrated my 9-year anniversary at Vidyard. And when I joined the business as VP Marketing, I will admit I had absolutely no experience in the world of video. I barely had any experience as a marketer, secret. But it was very, very clear at the time that video content was going to become more and more important part of marketing and sales and frankly, the business world. If you go back, 9, 10 years, this was when certainly, YouTube was very prolific. A lot of B2C brands were using video content for ads and commercials. But in B2B, it was really just getting started. Companies were often doing maybe explainer videos on their website, maybe about us videos, but very little creative storytelling beyond that. But it was clear the power of video, and all of the barriers were starting, they still weren't, but they were starting to come down in terms of content creation costs and accessibility and so on. So that got me really excited. I felt like we were sort of at the right time where video was proven as a content medium, but still very nascent in the world of B2B marketing. And that's really where we focus. And I got to spend the last 9 years really immersed in that world of how B2B companies thought about using video for demand generation, for outbound campaigns, even right into sales, which also led to what you referenced earlier, writing a book called The Visual Sale to share all the experiences I've had over the last 9 years.
Awesome. Now the traditional view of creating video, especially for B2B brands, is it's expensive, it's time consuming, your videos get outdated. What's wrong with that? How are things changing in that sense?
Yeah, it's been a really interesting evolution, even the last few years, where I think we all understand why video now. Like going back 5-6 years, I still spent a lot of my time talking to marketers about why they should be serious about investing in video as a content format. But I think most of us are past that. We understand that it's the best medium to be able to educate audiences, right? I talk about the 4 E's of video. It's great at educating, it's great at engaging, it's great at creating empathy, and it's great at sparking emotion. And I think marketers generally understand that now, but they still find the ability to create video content cumbersome compared to writing, the written word, creating static graphics, and so on. But the reality is, video creation has become just as accessible as any other format over the last few years. I personally, on an almost daily basis, I'm recording content using either my smartphone or a basic digital camera. I'm editing things in free tools like CapCut or iMovie, and it's becoming very, very integrated into how we all communicate, especially on the channels. And so I think that marketers, businesses, salespeople, everybody, we need to kind of get behind this. We need to understand that creating and sharing video content, there are no longer these big barriers to entry. Costs don't need to be high. And in fact, there don't need to be any cost for a lot of the content we create. And making videos as something that's, going to come and go, just like written content, is perfectly fine. And in many cases, a much stronger approach as opposed to just, hey, those 1 or 2 videos we produce per year for our big brand campaigns. So that's what I'm starting to see. These barriers are broken down. It's an opportunity for all of us to say, hey, we can deliver our messages in more impactful, more educational, more engaging ways if we just kind of get past these fears and unknowns about video and embrace it as a better way to deliver our message.
Lovely. And how should people think about the velocity and cost of producing videos? I mean, should they think about, hey, cost per minute, or in terms of turnaround time, probably could produce like 2 minutes of content every day? How should you think about it?
Well, there is no simple answer to that because it's actually very similar to, frankly, the written word when you think about it. So, if you were to ask a marketer, like, how much would you pay for the written word? It's very different if they're talking about, hey, writing an email versus like drafting, a heavy hitting PDF or a guide or website copy. There's lots of different ways that we use it. And we need to start thinking about video in the same way. There is no sort of one size fits all for video content anymore. Video content can play a very important role on our websites. It can play an important role in our outbound email campaigns, in other types of marketing campaigns, but it can play an equally, if not more important role all the way through the buyer's journey. Educating our audiences, helping to explain complex ideas more clearly, helping to walk through how it is that we do certain things, right through into supporting sales proposals and even post-sale onboarding. So there's so many different ways we're now using video that there is no one size fits all. Now, my guiding factor for this is you want to think about a few things as you approach where and how might I use video. If it's something that is much more quote unquote top of funnel, is going to need to stand the test of time, maybe it's going to be up on the front page of your website. That's a case where partnering with an agency who understands how to produce heavy hitting content, who knows how to script and create content that's going to keep people engaged and is going to be able to tell your story very succinctly, that's a case where, again, I might allocate budget, work with an agency, and spend anywhere from $5,000 to $20,000, depending on what I'm looking for in that piece of content. But as I think about these other use cases, if I want to answer questions my audience have, if I want to create some thought leadership video, if I want to do a walkthrough of how our product works, a lot of that content can be created on a $0 budget. We can do it internally. We often have people in our business who are savvy with video, or maybe we're up-leveling our content marketers, our social media marketers, our product marketers to be able to create and ship video quickly, and again, at next to no or even no cost. And that's something we really need to get behind and get comfortable with having internal people being on camera, delivering our messages, just like traditionally we've had them behind the keyboard writing content.
So you're trying to say video is becoming as ubiquitous as writing an email or probably writing a blog, something like that, is it?
I think that's where our mindsets need to be. And we need to think about it as another way to deliver the messages that we need to deliver to our audience on a monthly, weekly, daily basis. And it really is a conversational content medium. And the interesting thing, Rish, is that the expectations of our audiences have really shifted. And that's part of what's really empowering video to play a bigger role. Years ago, audiences would have expected a piece of video content to be this highly produced, sort of well manufactured piece of content that they were expecting from marketing teams, almost like commercials. But these days, especially post-pandemic, we're all now not only used to, but in many cases, we prefer video content that feels more real, more authentic, that's more conversational. And frankly, that's just more about helping us rather than trying to sell us on something. We seem to be craving that kind of transparency and that simplicity in many ways. And it's almost a get out of jail free card for marketers, right? You don't have to spend a lot of money to produce this over-the-top video with drone sequences and, sort of commercial level feel. You can have your own people within your organization getting on camera, clearly explaining an idea, or you can get experts from your community, customers. All of that can happen in a way that you can shoot, edit, and ship it, literally in less than a day. So we need to get sort of over that hurdle and start to say, yeah, if we can write emails, we can write blog posts, we need to have the internal competence to be able to create which is an intentional word instead of produce, to create video content consistently, to put it out to our audiences, because often that's what they prefer.
I love how you use the word create as opposed to produce, because produce normally means like they associated with higher production quality. I was reading a survey by TikTok creators, and they said if you have a very professionally polished TikTok video versus like somebody who's just recorded raw, the raw one performs much better than the professionally produced with the same story
Every time.
And I think this new age of lo-fi videos, storytellers get a better chance than somebody who would just create polished content.
Yeah, absolutely. And the interesting thing, I know a lot of content creators who are in marketing and outside, and I know a lot of producers who are inside B2B companies and out. And I'm even finding that a lot of producers are now actually creating content with that feel and that approach intentionally. They'll often actually prefer to record with an iPhone than, a like 4K red camera that, would cost tens of thousands of dollars. And, so sometimes they're actually like out there intentionally capturing with an iPhone, they're not even adding like stabilizers or anything anymore. They're like, the more real and authentic this content feels, the more off the cuff it feels, the more real it feels, the better it gets received by audiences. Now, that doesn't take away from the need to prepare effectively for your content and to be smart about how you edit to really respect your audience's time. So those are now more important than the actual production quality, if you will, the camera quality and so on. It's how well do you prepare for the message you want to deliver, and then how well do you edit it down so that it's something that's quick, punchy, that really respects your audience's time and sort of maximizes the value per minute or the laughs per minute, whatever it is that you're trying to get out of it.
Got it. The audience for this podcast is mostly from the software industry. Now, what kind of video content do you think a software company should first focus on when they start with video marketing?
That's a great question, and thankfully it's the space that I've spent the most time in, and frankly where I see the most video content creation happening is in software and tech. Even more so than industries like financial services or healthcare, manufacturing, pro services, and others. And the reason is, in software and tech, we often have a lot more explaining to do, a lot more clarity that we need to bring to the buying process, because we're often selling products that are fairly complex, or they're new ideas for people, and so they don't have an existing frame of reference. And so video plays this really important role to create clarity during the learning and buying process. And that's frankly where I would start as a software company. So rather than thinking about, top of funnel, we need these like big brand campaigns or these heavy hitting videos for our website, I would focus on where can video be used to help create clarity during the research and buying process by your prospects. Which could be everything from very clear and simple walkthrough videos, actually explaining what it is you do. They could be further up. They could be sort of more traditional explainers to make sure that your prospects understand the problem and how it is that you're able to help with that. It could be great videos with your customers or your advocates to be sharing very clear examples of how they use what you do to achieve a really important outcome. So I'd encourage you to start there and ask yourselves, ask your sales teams, ask your prospects. During the learning process, what questions do you typically have? Where is there often confusion or lack of understanding? And start to think about how short, simple videos could help create clarity at those moments and get your teams using them. Your marketing team, your sales team, everybody can start to use those to help make sure that anybody who's interested in what you do can very clearly understand the value and see themselves in the position of using it, even if it's not something they've ever thought of before.
Lovely. I think I like how you position it towards the sales objections as opposed to just plainly thinking about like where do you put things in marketing funnel. A lot of, probably even me including, a lot of people are not too friendly on camera. They feel that, hey, it takes some time to write the script. It takes some time to look good for camera. what are your top 2 or 3 pieces of advice for them?
Yeah, and that's very natural and certainly the case for most of us. Frankly, we didn't, grow up necessarily in a world where we were typically on camera or we developed these skills. And it is different. It's very different from, traditional forms of communication or even being on a live call with somebody. And so it does take practice and it does take development. And I think now is a great time for as many of us as possible to develop those skills. It was funny, last night, my wife came home from being out with one of my daughters, and she came home and my green screen was set up in our dining room. And she comes in, she says, what are you doing now? Like, why is the green screen and this camera set up in our dining room? And I said, oh, well, our other daughter, our younger daughter, she got some inspiration from YouTube for this video she wanted to make. And it required a green screen because she wanted to put this background in. And so, instead of being the old dad and saying oh no, you don't need to make videos, I was like, okay, let's do this. Let's figure out how you do this. And so, she's like, okay, this is what I want to do. And I'm like, okay, I set this up. And then, we make this fun little video with the green screen. And then I actually show her and I walk her through the editing process of okay, so here's how now you take away the green and I can add the background in. And anyway, I'm telling my wife this story and she's like, why are you doing this? And I said, well, because video competency is going to be an important asset for the rest of her life, much like internet competency and AI competency will be. And so the more that I can get her and my other kids comfortable with creating content, the better off they're going to be in all aspects of their lives. And, my wife was like, you're totally right. And whether we put this on YouTube or not, it doesn't matter, right? It's this fun learning process. And anyway, to answer your question, that's just sort of an inspire people with yeah, you know what, we can start to do this and develop a competency for it. And that's how I want you to think about it, right? Because it's no different from developing other skills or competencies. Video is a competency that you get better with practice. So number one, like anything else, practice, right? Get into the habit of making short videos periodically. Maybe they're for your own LinkedIn channel. Maybe you can use a tool like Vidyard and record video messages for your colleagues or your friends or people in your business, right? You hit the record button, record from your camera, send it over as a video message. The more you do those, the more you just get comfortable with this idea of talking into a camera, delivering your message, and sending it off. And I promise you, every time you're going to get a little bit better and a little bit more comfortable. So practice, 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 and find those moments. Because if you're not intentional about it, you won't do it, right? It just won't develop. So that's the big first one. The second thing is being mindful of this short, simple phrase. It's about connection, not perfection. I'll say it again. It's about connection, not perfection. Don't go into making a video with the expectation that it's going to be perfect or that you're going to be perfect. Focus on creating a genuine connection with the people on the other side of that camera, right? Be yourself. Be authentic, but always be mindful of the audience and say, who am I making this for? And now as I deliver my words, as I think about the process, be hyper mindful of that. How is this going to connect with the person on the other side? And that can often actually make the process of recording a video and being on camera a lot easier. For the first while, it's just now natural for me, but when I was on camera early on, I always thought about an actual person on the other side of it. So it wasn't just hey, I'm making this video for demand gen marketers or for a VP of sales. I was like, you know what? I'm making this video for Jesse, who I know, who's a demand gen manager. And I'm thinking about what would help this really connect with Jesse? How can I say this in a tone that she's going to appreciate or that she can relate to, right? And that really helped. And I was able to be much more conversational, much more myself. And I think that really shines through in today's video content, whether it's something you're putting up on your homepage or something that you're just making as a one-off for a campaign. And as somebody who's going to be on camera, focus in on that, right? It's about connection, not perfection. Be yourself and speak as naturally as you can. And it'll make you more comfortable and it'll make the end product a lot better.
Love it. I'm going to implement some of your techniques in my own life, starting with my son. I have a 4-year-old boy, and I think you said the right way. I mean, video competency is going to be like ubiquitous everywhere. and you got to be prepared. I mean, otherwise you'll perish.
Yeah, no, very much. And, it's funny. I almost like with a lot of, I have 4 kids between the ages of 7 and 15. So I see it all in my household. And, before I really understood what TikTok was, as an example, my, then, 12-year-old daughter would be making TikTok videos, and I'd see what she was, and I'm like, oh my gosh, how did you make that? Like, that's incredible. Like, how did you add those effects? And like, how did you caption it? And how did you do this? And me, with my like traditional mindset, I'm like, that would take me like an hour to make. Like, I'd have to record it, import it somewhere, add these effects. And she's like, Dad, it's just TikTok. Like, it has all the things to do it. And I'm like, how'd you learn that? And she's like, I just did it. And I just like, it just became this competency. And that was really inspiring for me. I was like, yeah, you know what? Like, I don't want to be on TikTok, but I should learn how tools like these are unlocking that potential in people. And the more you can do that, the more you start to appreciate what can be done with some of these new tools. But they can also, again, help you be a much better content creator, whether or not you're the one actually doing the recording, the editing, and so on. Having a baseline understanding of some of these new tools, I think, is really, really important for all of us, so we can kind of understand the art of the possible. And now when I go into the idea, I'll give you another example from this week in my business life. One of my team members asked if I could create a video to help summarize some of the stats from a new report we were about to publish. So we did a research report, and they thought, hey, wouldn't it be great to put a short video out that highlighted the top 3 stats, and then a few takeaways from it, and then encourage people to go and read the full report. And so I said, of course I can make a video for that. That sounds great. I'm excited. That sounds like something right up my alley. And so, I decided, hey, instead of just me recording myself into the camera, just like talking, which isn't going to be that exciting, I record myself from a couple different angles. I use an editing tool called CapCut, which is free. It's actually from the makers of TikTok. And so I use that for my video editing. Again, it's free, and I've spent a little bit of time learning it. So now I record myself a couple angles, I put them in CapCut, and I can add any of those effects you see on TikTok. It immediately like captions it with cool words. I like green screen in a funny background. I add a little bit of music behind it, and that took me a couple of hours. And, when I output it and I send it, they're like, how did you make this so quickly? and I say, well, I don't know. It's just become a rhythm for how we do this. But now the expectation is very different. They're like, hey, I only expected you like talking into your phone for a minute. This is much better. Thank you. But now that expectation changes, right? Now they're like, hey, next time we should do something like this, as opposed to just that lower expectation. And so that, again, becomes really, really important for all of us as we learn these tools and we understand what is possible. Our expectations go up, and that's a good thing. And we can push ourselves to be better, to strive for more, but without having to spend more on it. It's really just about us developing our skills.
Awesome. Tyler, thank you so much for taking our time and sharing your insights. If our listeners would like to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
Please connect with me on LinkedIn. You can find me there, Tyler Lessard, VP Marketing at Vidyard. And if you have any questions at all about, using video, creating video, strategies for using video throughout the marketing funnel, feel free to DM me on LinkedIn. More than happy to share my perspectives. And yeah, please check out the book as well, The Visual Sale. It's available on Amazon and everywhere else you might get books. And it has pretty much everything in my brain about video dumped into one manuscript. So feel free to check that out as well.
Very good. Thank you, Tyler. Have a good day.
Thank you, Rish.